In the heart of a bustling city where the streets hummed with life and ambition, Mia navigated her world with unwavering determination. As a waitress at an upscale restaurant, she had learned to balance the demands of her job with the dreams she harbored for a brighter future. Each day began early, with her alarm clock blaring its relentless tune, pulling her from the comfort of sleep into the reality of her life, a life filled with challenges, late-night shifts, and the constant struggle of making ends meet. Mia's morning routine was a well-rehearsed dance. She would rise, stretch her limbs, and take a moment to glance at her reflection in the mirror. Her dark hair, usually tied back in a neat bun, framed her face, accentuating her expressive brown eyes. She was not just another face in the crowd. She was a fighter, a survivor. With a quick application of makeup to hide the fatigue from her long hours, she would slip into her crisp black uniform, ready to face the day. Before you skip, just remember, channels like this only survive if you hit subscribe. Otherwise, stories like this one just disappear. The restaurant where Mia worked was a haven for the city's elite, a place where the rich and powerful gathered to indulge in exquisite cuisine. It was a world of luxury, one that Mia had always admired from afar. The polished marble floors and the glint of crystal chandeliers created an atmosphere of opulence that felt almost surreal. Yet, amidst the glamour, Mia felt a sense of belonging. She had built relationships with her coworkers, sharing laughter and stories during brief moments of respite. As she entered the restaurant, the familiar scent of fresh pastries and brewed coffee enveloped her, a comforting reminder of her daily grind. Mia moved through the dining area, greeting regular patrons with a warm smile, her heart swelling with pride as she remembered their names. She was known for her attentive service, always going the extra mile to ensure her customers felt valued. But on this particular day, the air was charged with an undercurrent of tension. Whispers of a new patron had spread among the staff, a figure cloaked in mystery who was rumored to be connected to the city's underbelly. Mia could feel the excitement and apprehension ripple through her colleagues as they speculated about the man who would soon grace their establishment. It was during the dinner rush that Mia first laid eyes on him. Jun, the Korean Mafia boss. He entered the restaurant with an air of confidence that demanded attention. Dressed in a tailored suit that accentuated his tall, imposing frame, he moved through the room with a predatory grace. His dark hair was slicked back, and his sharp features were set in a stoic expression that spoke of power and control. Mia's breath caught in her throat as she watched him from behind the bar, her heart racing inexplicably. There was something magnetic about him, an aura that drew her in despite the warnings that echoed in the back of her mind. She had heard the stories, the whispers of his ruthless reputation and the fear he instilled in those around him. Yet, as he made his way to a secluded table, she couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to him than met the eye. As the evening progressed, Mia's shifts became increasingly busy, but her thoughts remained fixated on Jun. She caught glimpses of him through the crowd, his presence commanding the attention of everyone around him. The way he interacted with his companions was both captivating and intimidating. He spoke in low tones, his voice smooth yet firm, and Mia couldn't help but wonder what secrets lay behind those piercing eyes. When the moment finally came for Mia to serve him, her heart raced with a mix of excitement and dread. As she approached his table, she felt a rush of adrenaline coursing through her veins. "Good evening, sir. Can I take your order?" she asked, her voice steady despite the butterflies in her stomach. Jun looked up at her, his gaze intense and unwavering. "I'll have the steak, medium rare," he replied, his voice low and commanding. There was a slight pause, and then he added, "And a glass of your finest red wine." Mia nodded, trying to maintain her composure. "Of course, sir. I'll be right back." As she turned to leave, she felt his eyes on her, a weight that both thrilled and unnerved her. In the moments that followed, Mia found herself stealing glances at June, captivated by the way he carried himself with an air of authority. He was surrounded by a group of well-dressed individuals, but it was clear that he was the center of attention. Laughter erupted from their table, but Mia could sense an underlying tension, an unspoken understanding that danger lurked just beneath the surface. As she returned with his order, she felt the electric charge between them grow stronger. "Here you go, sir. Enjoy your meal," she said, placing the plate in front of him. Their eyes locked for a brief moment, and Mia felt a flutter in her chest, a connection that defied logic. "Thank you, Mia," he said, his voice smooth like silk. The way he pronounced her name sent shivers down her spine. "You have a way of making this place feel more inviting." Mia was taken aback by his compliment, unsure of how to respond. "I just try to do my best," she managed, her cheeks warming under his gaze. As the night wore on, Mia found herself drawn to June's table again and again, each interaction leaving her more intrigued than the last. There was something about him that felt familiar, yet entirely foreign. She couldn't shake the feeling that their paths were destined to cross in a way she couldn't yet comprehend. But as the evening drew to a close, Mia noticed a shift in the atmosphere. The laughter at June's table faded, replaced by hushed whispers and furtive glances. A tension filled the air, and Mia felt a knot form in her stomach. She had seen enough to know that the world June inhabited was fraught with danger, and she was just a common waitress caught in the crossfire. When June finally stood to leave, Mia felt a pang of disappointment. She had hoped for a moment of connection, a chance to learn more about the man who had captivated her thoughts. As he passed by her, their eyes met once more, and in that fleeting moment, she sensed a vulnerability beneath his hardened exterior. "Be careful, Mia," he said, his voice low and serious. "This city can be unforgiving." The weight of his words hung in the air as he walked away, leaving Mia with a mixture of confusion and intrigue. She couldn't shake the feeling that their encounter was only the beginning of something far more complicated than she had ever anticipated. In the days that followed, Mia tried to focus on her work, but June lingered in her thoughts. She found herself replaying their interactions, analyzing every word and gesture, trying to decipher the enigma that was the Korean Mafia boss. The more she thought about him, the more she felt an inexplicable draw toward his world, a world she had never wanted to be a part of, yet now felt strangely connected to. As fate would have it, Mia's life took an unexpected turn when she found herself in a precarious situation. It was a typical Friday night at the restaurant, and the atmosphere was electric with excitement. The place was packed, and Mia was in the thick of it, weaving through tables and balancing trays laden with food and drinks. But then, the door swung open, and in walked a group of rough-looking men, their presence instantly shifting the mood in the room. Mia's heart raced as she recognized one of them, a man she had seen lurking around the restaurant before, a known associate of June's. The men moved through the crowd with an air of entitlement, their eyes scanning the room until they landed on June's table. Mia's stomach dropped as she watched the tension escalate. June remained seated, his expression unreadable, but she could sense the storm brewing beneath the surface. As the men approached, Mia's instincts kicked in. She knew she had to be careful, to stay out of whatever was about to unfold. But as she turned to retreat, she felt a hand grip her wrist, pulling her back into the fray. "Mia!" June's voice cut through the chaos, and she turned to see him standing, his demeanor shifting from calm to fierce in an instant. "Get behind me." The urgency in his voice sent a shiver down her spine. Without thinking, she moved closer to him, instinctively trusting his protective instincts. The confrontation escalated, words were exchanged, and Mia could feel the tension crackling in the air. In that moment, she realized how deeply she had been drawn into June's world, a world that was both alluring and terrifying. She could no longer deny the connection between them, nor the danger that lurked just beyond the surface. As the situation unfolded, Mia found herself standing at the precipice of a decision that would change her life forever. The stakes were higher than she had ever imagined, and she was about to discover just how far she was willing to go to protect the man who had unknowingly captured her heart. In the chaos of the moment, Joan's fierce gaze met hers, and she felt a surge of determination. Whatever happened next, she knew she would stand by him, even if it meant stepping into a world that threatened to consume her. Mia's heart raced as she stood behind Joan, her pulse echoing in her ears. The atmosphere in the upscale restaurant had shifted dramatically, the air thick with tension. The group of men who had entered with such bravado now loomed over them, their intentions clear. Mia could feel the heat radiating off Joan's body, a stark contrast to the chill that gripped her. She had never been in a situation like this, and the reality of June's world was crashing down on her like a tidal wave. June's presence was commanding, his tall frame exuding an aura of power that both intimidated and captivated her. As he glared at the men, Mia caught a glimpse of the fierce determination in his eyes. This side of him was raw and unfiltered, a stark departure from the stoic facade he usually maintained. She had seen glimpses of his vulnerability before, but this was different. This was a man ready to defend what was his, and in that moment, she realized she was part of that equation. "June," one of the men sneered, leaning closer, his voice dripping with disdain. "You think you can just sit here, acting like you own the place? You don't control everything, you know." Mia felt a shiver run down her spine at the threat that hung in the air. She wanted to reach out, to touch June's arm and remind him that he wasn't alone, but she hesitated. What could she possibly do in this dangerous game? Her instincts screamed for her to run, to escape this nightmare, but her feet felt rooted to the floor. The connection she felt with June was undeniable, and she couldn't turn her back on him now. "Get out," June said, his voice low and steady, but there was an underlying current of menace that made the hair on Mia's arms stand on end. "You're not welcome here." The men exchanged glances, and for a brief moment it seemed as if they might back down. But then the leader stepped forward, a cruel smile spreading across his face. "You think you can protect her? You're just a scared little boy playing at being a man. We both know how this ends." Before Mia could process what was happening, June moved with lightning speed. He stepped in front of her, blocking her from view as he squared his shoulders against the threat. The shift in his demeanor was palpable. He was no longer the composed boss she had seen before. This was a man ready to fight for what he cared about. And in that moment, Mia felt a rush of emotions: fear, admiration, and an overwhelming sense of attraction. "Touch her, and you'll regret it," June warned, his voice cold and unyielding. Mia could see the muscles in his jaw tighten, and she knew he meant every word. The tension in the room was electric, and she held her breath, waiting for the inevitable explosion. The leader scoffed, but the bravado in his voice faltered as he took a step back. "You think you're invincible, don't you? But everyone has a weakness." His eyes flickered to Mia, and she felt a chill run through her. The threat was clear, and she could see the gears turning in June's mind. "Get out," June repeated, louder this time, his voice cutting through the tension like a knife. "You don't want to test me." Mia's heart pounded as she watched the standoff unfold. She had never seen June like this, and it both terrified and fascinated her. She wanted to reach out to him, to tell him that she believed in him, but the fear of the unknown held her back. What if he lost control? What if this was the moment everything changed? The leader hesitated, and for a moment it seemed as if he might back down. But then he straightened, his confidence returning. This isn't over, June. You can't keep her safe forever. With a final glare, he turned and stormed out of the restaurant, his men following closely behind. As the door swung shut, the tension in the room dissipated, leaving Mia breathless. She turned to June, who was still standing protectively in front of her. The fierce look in his eyes began to soften, and she could see the weight of the world resting on his shoulders. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice low and filled with concern. The shift in his demeanor was jarring. The fierce protector was gone, replaced by a man who was deeply aware of the danger they had just faced. Mia nodded, though her heart was still racing. "I think so. I didn't expect that to happen." June's expression turned serious. "You need to understand, Mia. This world isn't safe. You're not just a waitress anymore. You're part of this now, whether you want to be or not." The weight of his words settled heavily on her. She had always prided herself on her independence, on carving out a life for herself despite the odds. But now she was entangled in a world that felt foreign and dangerous. "I didn't ask for this," she said softly, her voice trembling slightly. "I know," he replied, his gaze unwavering. "But you're here, and I won't let anything happen to you. I promise." His promise sent a rush of warmth through her, but it was quickly overshadowed by the reality of their situation. "But what if they come back? What if they try to hurt you because of me?" June stepped closer, his presence enveloping her like a protective shield. "They won't. I won't let them. You're safe with me." Mia felt a mixture of comfort and fear at his words. She wanted to believe him, but the reality of the Mafia world loomed large. "I don't want to be a liability," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "You're not a liability," he insisted, his tone firm. "You're important to me, more than you know." The sincerity in his voice sent her heart racing. She had never expected to hear those words from someone like him, a man so powerful and feared. But as she looked into his eyes, she saw a flicker of vulnerability that made her heart ache. "Why me?" she asked, her curiosity getting the better of her. "There are so many other people you could have in your life. Why choose someone like me?" Joan took a moment to gather his thoughts, his gaze drifting to the floor as if searching for the right words. "Because you see me for who I really am. You don't treat me like a monster or a boss. You see the man behind the title." His admission struck a chord deep within her. She had never thought of herself as someone who could see past the surface. But with Joan, everything felt different. There was something about him that pulled her in, something that made her want to understand the man beneath the cold exterior. "I'm scared," she confessed, her voice trembling. "I don't know how to navigate this world." Joan reached out, his fingers brushing against her arm, sending a jolt of electricity through her. "I'll help you. We'll figure it out together." The promise of partnership sparked a flicker of hope within her. Maybe she didn't have to face this alone. Maybe there was a way to navigate the treacherous waters of Joan's world without losing herself. But just as that thought began to take root, the reality of their situation crashed back in. "What if they come after me?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Joan's expression hardened, and she could see the determination etched on his face. "Then I'll make sure they regret it. No one can touch you but me." His words hung in the air, a declaration that resonated deep within her. In that moment, she felt a surge of emotions, fear, excitement, and an undeniable attraction that simmered just beneath the surface. She was drawn to his strength, to the way he commanded the room and demanded respect. But there was also a part of her that wanted to run. She had spent her whole life avoiding trouble, and now she was standing on the precipice of a world that was anything but safe. "Joan, she started, but the words caught in her throat. He stepped closer, closing the distance between them. "You don't have to say anything. Just trust me." Trust. The word echoed in her mind, and she realized just how much she wanted to trust him. Despite the danger, despite the fear, there was something about June that felt right. As they stood there, the world around them faded away, and for a moment it was just the two of them. The connection between them crackled with electricity, and Mia felt a pull that was impossible to ignore. But the reality of their situation loomed large, and she knew she had to tread carefully. "I need time to think," she said finally, her voice steady despite the storm of emotions swirling inside her. June nodded, his expression softening. "Take all the time you need. I'll be here when you're ready." With that, he stepped back, giving her the space she needed. But as she watched him retreat, she couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of something much bigger. The restaurant began to return to its usual rhythm, the clinking of glasses and the murmur of conversations filling the air once more. But Mia felt different, changed. She had crossed a line into a world she never wanted to be a part of, and now she had to navigate the complexities that came with it. As she resumed her duties, serving tables and pouring drinks, her mind was consumed with thoughts of June. The way he had stood up for her, the promise in his eyes, it was all so intoxicating. But with that intoxication came the weight of uncertainty. What would happen next? Would she be able to handle the dangers that lurked in the shadows? And most importantly, could she trust June to keep her safe? The questions swirled in her mind as she moved through the restaurant, her heart torn between fear and excitement. She had never been one to shy away from challenges, but this was different. This was a man who lived in a world of shadows, and she was just a waitress trying to make her way in the world. But as she glanced over at June, who was now seated at his table, his gaze fixed on her with an intensity that made her heart skip a beat, she realized that she was already in too deep. And somehow, that realization both terrified and exhilarated her. The night wore on, and as the restaurant began to empty, Mia found herself stealing glances at June, who remained a constant presence in her thoughts. She couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of a journey that would change her life forever. As she finished her shift and prepared to leave, she felt a mix of anticipation and dread. She had a choice to make. Either walk away from this dangerous allure or step into the unknown and see where it led. With a deep breath, she made her decision. She would confront her fears head-on. After all, she had come too far to turn back now. And as she stepped out into the cool night air, she knew that whatever lay ahead, she would face it with June by her side. Mia stepped outside the restaurant, the cool night air wrapping around her like a comforting blanket, but her thoughts were anything but calm. The decision she had made to confront her fears felt monumental, yet a part of her still trembled at the thought of the world she was stepping into. She glanced back at the restaurant, where the warm glow of the interior contrasted sharply with the chill of the night. June's presence lingered in her mind, a magnetic force pulling her thoughts in his direction. As she walked down the street, the sound of her heels clicked against the pavement, echoing in the stillness of the night. Her heart raced with a mix of excitement and trepidation. She knew she was crossing into unfamiliar territory, and the stakes were higher than ever. The allure of June was undeniable, but so were the dangers that came with being close to him. Suddenly, her phone buzzed in her pocket, jolting her from her thoughts. It was a text from June. "Meet me at the rooftop of the building across the street." A rush of adrenaline surged through her. The rooftop? It felt like an invitation into his world, a world that was both thrilling and terrifying. She hesitated for a moment, her mind racing with questions. What did he want to discuss? Was it safe? But deep down, she knew she couldn't resist the pull. Mia made her way to the building, her heart pounding with each step. The city skyline loomed above her, a jagged silhouette against the night sky. As she entered the lobby, the doorman nodded at her, a flicker of recognition in his eyes. She took the elevator to the top, her stomach twisting in knots. The doors opened to reveal a breathtaking view of the city, the lights twinkling like stars. But her attention was drawn to June, who stood at the edge of the rooftop, his silhouette framed by the city lights. He turned at the sound of the elevator doors opening, his expression unreadable. "You came," he said, his voice low and smooth, sending shivers down her spine. "I didn't want to miss this," Mia replied, trying to keep her voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions inside her. June stepped closer, his presence overwhelming. "I wanted to talk to you about what happened earlier, about us." There was a gravity in his tone that made her heart race. The wind tousled her hair as she took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. "What do you mean? I know this is all new for you, and I understand if you're scared, but I need you to know that I want to protect you," he said, his eyes locking onto hers with an intensity that made her pulse quicken. "Protect me?" Mia echoed, her brow furrowing. "From what exactly?" "From the world I'm a part of," June replied, his voice dropping to a whisper. "There are people who would see you as a weakness, and I can't allow that." Her heart sank at his words. "So you're saying I'm a target, just because I'm near you?" He nodded, a shadow passing over his face. "Yes, but I won't let anything happen to you, I promise." Mia took a step back, her mind racing. "You don't understand. I didn't ask for this. I'm just a waitress trying to make a living." "I know," he said, his tone softening. "But you've already stepped into my world, whether you realize it or not. You caught my attention, and I can't just walk away." "Why me?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. "There are plenty of other people you could choose from." "Because you're different," he replied, taking another step closer. "You're strong, independent, and you see me for who I am, not just what I represent. That's rare." Mia felt her heart flutter at his words, but doubt still lingered. "And what if I can't handle it? What if I'm not strong enough?" June reached out, his fingers brushing against her arm. The touch sent a jolt of electricity through her. "You are strong, Mia. You've already shown that, and I'll be right here with you, every step of the way." She searched his eyes, looking for any hint of deception, but all she found was sincerity. "What does that mean for us?" "It means we'll figure it out together," he said, his voice steady. "But first, I need you to trust me." Trust. The word hung in the air between them, heavy with implications. Mia's heart raced as she contemplated his request. Trusting June meant stepping further into a world filled with uncertainty and danger. But the way he looked at her, the way he spoke, there was a connection that was impossible to ignore. "Okay," she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'll try." A flicker of relief crossed June's face, and for a brief moment the tension that had wrapped around them began to ease. "Good, but we need to be cautious. I can't have you in harm's way." "Then what do we do?" she asked, feeling a surge of determination. "I can't just sit back and let you handle everything. I want to be involved." June's expression turned serious. "You need to understand that this isn't a game. There are real threats out there. But if you're willing to stand by my side, I'll make sure you're safe." Mia nodded, her resolve strengthening. "I can handle myself, June. I've faced challenges before." A hint of admiration flashed in his eyes. "I know you can. That's why I'm drawn to you." They stood in silence for a moment, the city sprawling beneath them, a world of possibilities and dangers. The chemistry between them crackled in the air, an unspoken promise of what lay ahead. "Let's start with something simple," June said, breaking the tension. "I want you to come with me to a meeting tomorrow night. It's important, and I want you to see my world." "A meeting?" Mia repeated, her stomach tightening. "What kind of meeting?" "Business," he replied, his tone neutral. "But I'll be there to protect you. I promise." Mia hesitated, the weight of his words settling in. "And what if I don't like what I see?" "Then we'll figure it out together," he said again, his gaze unwavering. "But I need you to be there. It's a chance for you to understand who I am and the life I lead." She took a deep breath, weighing her options. The thought of entering his world filled her with both excitement and fear. "Okay, I'll go," she said finally, her voice steady. "But I need to know what I'm getting into." June smiled, a flicker of warmth breaking through his stoic exterior. "You won't regret it, Mia. I promise to keep you safe." As they stood together on the rooftop, the city lights twinkling around them, Mia felt a shift in her heart. She was stepping into the unknown, but with June by her side, she felt a sense of strength she hadn't known before. The night stretched on, filled with unspoken promises and the weight of their shared decisions. Mia knew that the following night would change everything, and as she looked out over the city, she felt a sense of anticipation building within her. But just as the moment felt perfect, a sudden noise shattered the tranquility. A car screeched to a halt below, and the sound of raised voices echoed up to the rooftop. Mia's heart raced as she turned to June, who had gone rigid, his expression shifting to one of alertness. "Stay here," he commanded, his tone leaving no room for argument. Before she could respond, he was already moving toward the edge of the rooftop, his eyes scanning the street below. Mia's heart raced as she watched him, the tension in the air palpable. What was happening? June's body tensed, and she could see the muscles in his jaw clench. "They're coming for me," he said, his voice low and firm. "What do you mean?" Mia asked, panic rising in her chest. "Who?" "Just stay behind me," he ordered, his eyes never leaving the scene unfolding below. Mia felt a surge of fear, her instincts screaming at her to run, but she couldn't just leave him. She took a step closer, her heart pounding in her chest. "June, we need to get out of here." "Not yet," he replied, his voice steady. "I need to assess the situation. Just trust me." As they watched, a group of men emerged from a car, their movements aggressive and purposeful. June's expression darkened, and Mia felt a chill run down her spine. "Stay close," he said, moving protectively in front of her. Mia's heart raced as she clutched the edge of the rooftop, her mind racing with possibilities. This was the danger June had warned her about, and now it was unfolding right in front of her. The men below began shouting, their voices rising in anger. June's body was tense, his focus unwavering. "I can handle this," he said, his voice low and fierce. Mia's breath caught in her throat as she watched him, torn between fear for his safety and the undeniable pull she felt toward him. This was the world he lived in, and she was now a part of it. As the confrontation escalated, June stepped forward, his posture commanding. "You don't want to do this," he called down, his voice steady and authoritative. But the men didn't back down. They advanced, their intentions clear. Mia's heart raced as she realized the gravity of the situation. "June, please," she cried, panic flooding her voice. "We need to go." But he didn't move. Instead, he stood his ground, his expression fierce and unwavering. "I won't let them touch you," he said, his eyes locked on hers. "No one can touch you but me." In that moment, Mia understood the depth of his commitment to her. He was willing to face danger head-on to protect her at all costs. The realization filled her with a mix of fear and admiration. As the tension escalated, Mia felt her heart race. She had stepped into a world filled with shadows and uncertainty, but with June by her side, she felt a flicker of hope. They would face whatever came next together, and she was ready to embrace the journey ahead. The confrontation below reached a boiling point, and in that instant, Mia knew that her life was about to change forever. Mia's heart raced as she stood frozen on the rooftop, the gravity of the situation pressing down on her like a heavy weight. June's fierce determination radiated from him, and she could see the tension coiling in his body, ready to spring into action. The men below were advancing, their intentions clear and threatening. She wanted to scream, to pull him back, but the intensity in his eyes held her in place. "June, please," she pleaded, her voice trembling slightly. "We need to go now." He turned to her, his expression softening for a brief moment, and in that fleeting glance, she saw the vulnerability he rarely allowed anyone to witness. "I won't let them touch you," he repeated, his voice low and filled with an intensity that sent shivers down her spine. "No one can touch you but me." The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. In that moment, Mia felt a rush of emotions, fear, admiration, and an undeniable pull toward him. She knew he was a dangerous man, but there was something about the way he looked at her, the way he was willing to protect her, that ignited a fire within her. As the men below shouted obscenities, June took a step closer to the edge of the rooftop, his body poised for confrontation. Mia's instincts screamed at her to pull him back, to remind him that he didn't have to do this alone. But she also understood that this was his world, and he was a man who faced danger head-on. "June," she called out, desperation creeping into her voice. "You don't have to do this. We can leave. Just tell me what to do." But he shook his head, his gaze locked on the group of men who were now shouting threats. "This is my fight, Mia. You need to trust me." Trust. The word echoed in her mind, and she felt the weight of it settle between them. Could she truly trust him? In the short time they had known each other, he had shown her both sides of himself, the powerful Mafia boss and the man who seemed to care deeply for her. But now, as danger loomed closer, she realized that her trust would be tested in ways she had never imagined. The men below were now shouting for June, their voices filled with anger and disdain. "You think you can hide up there, June?" one of them called out, a sneer evident in his tone. "You can't run from us forever." June's jaw clenched, and he took a deep breath, his expression hardening once more. "I'm not hiding," he replied, his voice steady and unwavering. "I'm here to end this." Mia felt a surge of fear mixed with admiration as she watched him. There was a strength in his resolve, a fierce loyalty that drew her in. But it was also terrifying. She was standing on the edge of a precipice, and one wrong move could send them both tumbling into chaos. As the men continued to taunt him, June turned slightly, casting a quick glance back at Mia. "Stay behind me. No matter what happens, don't move." Her heart pounded in her chest as she nodded, knowing she had to trust him. She stepped back, her eyes never leaving him as he faced the threat head-on. The air was thick with tension, and she could feel the adrenaline coursing through her veins. Suddenly, one of the men broke away from the group and started to climb the fire escape, making his way toward them. Mia's breath caught in her throat as she realized the danger was escalating. "June, he's coming up," she shouted, panic rising in her voice. "I know," he replied, his eyes never leaving the advancing figure. "Just stay back." The man reached the rooftop, his face twisted in anger. "You think you're untouchable, June? You think you can just walk away from us?" June's demeanor shifted, his body radiating a calm confidence that both reassured and terrified Mia. "You've made a mistake coming here," he said, his voice low and dangerous. The man laughed, a cruel sound that sent chills down Mia's spine. And what are you going to do about it? You're outnumbered. June's gaze narrowed, and in that moment, Mia saw a flicker of something fierce and unyielding. I'm not outnumbered, he replied, his voice steady. You're the ones who are about to regret this. Before Mia could process what was happening, June moved with a speed and precision that left her breathless. He closed the distance between them in an instant, his movements fluid and controlled. The confrontation escalated quickly, and Mia felt her heart race as she watched the scene unfold. June's strength was undeniable as he faced off against the man. The tension in the air was palpable, and Mia felt as if time had slowed. She wanted to intervene, to help him, but she knew that he was capable of handling this on his own. The man lunged at June, but he sidestepped with ease, countering with a powerful blow that sent the attacker stumbling backward. Mia gasped, her heart racing as she witnessed the raw power he possessed. There was a primal energy in the air, a dance of danger that both thrilled and terrified her. Get out of here, June shouted, his voice booming as he turned to face the remaining men who were still on the ground. This is your last warning. But the men didn't back down. Instead, they advanced, their anger palpable. Mia felt a surge of fear as she realized the situation was spiraling out of control. June, she cried, her voice filled with urgency. We need to go. He glanced back at her, his expression fierce. I won't leave you behind. Stay close. The confrontation escalated further, and Mia felt her heart pound in her chest as she watched June fight. He was a force of nature, moving with a grace that belied his strength. But as the numbers stacked against him, she could see the strain in his movements, the way his focus narrowed as he faced multiple threats. In that moment, Mia felt a surge of determination. She couldn't just stand by and watch him fight alone. She had to do something. June, she shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. I'm coming. He turned to her, his eyes wide with surprise. No, stay back. But she was already moving, her heart racing, as she stepped forward, ready to stand by his side. I won't let you face this alone. The men hesitated for a moment, taken aback by her sudden defiance. June's expression shifted from surprise to concern. Mia, this isn't your fight. I don't care, she shouted, her voice steady and resolute. I'm not leaving you. As the tension reached its peak, Mia felt a surge of adrenaline. She could see the fear in June's eyes, but there was also something else, a flicker of admiration for her bravery. All right, he said, his voice low and fierce. If you're going to be here, then stay close and do exactly as I say. Mia nodded, determination coursing through her veins. She stood beside him, ready to face whatever came next. The men below were regrouping, their expressions filled with anger and disbelief. Let's finish this, June said, his voice steady. As the confrontation escalated, Mia felt a sense of empowerment wash over her. She was no longer just a bystander in June's world. She was an active participant, ready to face the dangers that lay ahead. With a fierce resolve, June moved forward, and Mia followed closely behind. Together, they stood against the threats that loomed over them, united in their determination to protect one another. The fight that ensued was chaotic, a whirlwind of movement and energy. Mia felt the adrenaline coursing through her as she witnessed June's strength and skill. He fought with a ferocity that was awe-inspiring, and she found herself drawn to him even more. But as the battle raged on, Mia realized that they were still outnumbered. The men were relentless, and she could see the strain beginning to show on June's face. June, we need to find a way out, she shouted, her voice filled with urgency. I know, he replied, his expression fierce, but we can't leave until we take care of this. Just then, one of the men lunged at Mia, and instinct kicked in. She stepped to the side, narrowly avoiding the attack, and in that moment, she felt a surge of adrenaline. She wasn't going to let them take her down. Get away from her, June shouted, his voice filled with a protective rage. He moved swiftly, taking down the attacker with a powerful blow that sent him sprawling. Mia's breath caught in her throat as she watched him, the raw power he possessed both terrifying and exhilarating. "Stay close," he ordered, his eyes scanning the area for any other threats. Mia nodded, determination surging within her. She could feel the connection between them growing stronger, the bond forged in the heat of battle. They were in this together, and she was ready to fight for him just as he fought for her. As the fight continued, Mia found herself stepping into her own strength. She dodged and weaved, finding ways to protect herself while also supporting June. Every move they made was synchronized, a dance of danger that brought them closer together. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the last of the attackers fell to the ground, defeated. June stood tall, his chest heaving as he surveyed the scene. The adrenaline began to fade, leaving behind a mixture of exhaustion and relief. Mia turned to him, her heart racing as she took in the sight of him. "We did it," she said, her voice filled with disbelief. June nodded, his expression softening as he looked at her. "You were incredible," he said, a hint of admiration in his voice. "I couldn't just stand by and watch," she replied, her heart swelling with pride. "I had to stand with you." He stepped closer, the intensity of the moment wrapping around them like a cocoon. "You have no idea how much that means to me," he said, his voice low and sincere. Mia felt a warmth spread through her, a connection that went beyond words. They had faced danger together, and in that moment she realized how deep her feelings for him had grown. But as the adrenaline faded, reality began to set in. "What now?" she asked, her voice tinged with uncertainty. "They'll come back." June's expression hardened once more, the weight of his world settling back onto his shoulders. "I know. We need to get you to safety." She felt a pang of fear at the thought of leaving him behind. "What about you?" "I'll handle this," he replied, his tone firm. "But you need to trust me. I won't let anything happen to you." Mia nodded, her heart torn between the desire to protect him and the need to keep herself safe. "Okay," she said, her voice steady. "I trust you." As they turned to leave the rooftop, Mia felt a sense of resolve wash over her. She had stepped into June's world, and she was ready to face whatever came next. Together, they would navigate the dangers that lay ahead, united in their determination to protect one another. As they descended the fire escape, Mia couldn't shake the feeling that everything had changed. She had crossed a threshold, stepping into a life filled with uncertainty and danger, but also with love and connection. With June by her side, she felt a flicker of hope, a belief that they could face anything together. But as they reached the ground, Mia knew that their fight was far from over. The shadows of the past loomed large, and she was determined to stand by June's side no matter what challenges awaited them. Together, they would navigate the complexities of their world, forging a path forward in the face of adversity. As they stepped into the night, Mia felt a surge of determination. She was ready to embrace the journey ahead, to face the dangers and uncertainties that lay before them. With June by her side, she was prepared to confront whatever challenges awaited them, united in their fight for love and survival. In that moment, as the city lights flickered around them, Mia knew that they were stronger together, and she was ready to face the future with June, the man who had become her protector, her partner, and her heart.